Okay, I thought I just might try to record this little video. I was reading Isaiah. Let me find the spot really quick. It just made me think of, well, I'll tell you in a second. I was going to try to explain what I think is a good picture of the Garden of Eden that we're trying to get back to. Like, God created man and put him in the garden, and so it's kind of this spiritual garden you live in, this place of like perfect peace, of all these fruits coming forth, of these fragrance from all these spices. Song of Solomon, you kind of read that. That's like kind of it's the kingdom of heaven, and it's the Garden of Eden at the same time. And so the garden of delight and pleasure. So anyway, this is the passage in Isaiah I want to read first. It says, "The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the young goat, the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. The cow and the bear shall graze, their young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. The nursing child shall play by the cobra's hole, and the weaned child shall put his hand on the viper's den. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea." So when I was reading that, it just made me think of the movie Fox and the Hound, because that every time I watch that movie, I kind of think of the Garden of Eden. In the beginning of it, when they're young, it's like they start as children, and they don't see each other's differences. They kind of have this blindness of innocence, and so as they grow up, then they start to grow apart, and they start to judge each other and condemn each other and be like, well, you're not like me. And so they start to see each other's faults and their blemishes, even though they're both, like when we watch the movie, we're just like, well, it's just a fox. It's just a hound. Like, we don't really see them as faults, but they see their differences, and then they start to condemn each other and become enemies. And so that's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That's when you partake of that. Partaking of that is exalting yourself to God and saying, I know good and evil. I know what's right. I know what's wrong. But then within that, you begin to condemn one another. We begin to like judge each other guilty. So to return to the Garden of Eden is to return back to that childlike state of where you see children play that way. They judge each other innocent. Like, even if they argue or get upset at each other, they still don't really condemn each other. They just, you deem one another innocent, and because you assume the best of people, and because even if people are messing up and in sin or in transgression or acting in bitterness or something, you don't know where the background they have, or where they came from, or what knowledge they have, or how they grew up, or maybe. So you can't, to offer people mercy that is accompanied by truth, but you still offer them mercy and compassion, pity and mercy that extend out from you, that are like in pity and mercy, that are just like these things that are just growing up in the garden and flowing through the garden, and you all get to, and everybody that is in the garden gets to partake of that mercy, because that's kind of the tree of life. That's Jesus Christ on the cross offering us all mercy. So return to that. I just like that movie Fox and the Hound, and if you watch that again, you kind of see that they go through that stage of this innocence, and they're judging each other innocent, and they're in the Garden of Eden, and then they partake of that tree, and they grow up, and they start to judge each other guilty. They see all the differences, they go their way, and then they get so bitter and resentful toward one another that they're at the point of death, basically. And then it takes it's kind of fascinating what it actually takes this higher threat. You kind of see that in different movies. You see that's kind of what brings different people together, is this transcendent, this higher threat, this imminent death, this doom that's coming down on these two really diverse parties or groups or individuals. And it's when this death is pressing, that's when they find the true meaning of life. And so it's like when this bear comes down in the movie, spoiler alert, sorry, and it attacks the dog, then the fox is willing to lay down his life. Like, that's love. It's a self-sacrificial love, and he's willing to lay down his life to try to fight off the bear so the dog can escape. And so then the fox and the bear, they end up like falling into the water, and the fox lives, and he's coming up out of the water. Then the hunter points his gun at the fox, and the dog repeats the same love. It steps in front of the gun to take the bullet for the fox, because it's that self-sacrificial love. Greater love hath no man than this, than to lay down his life from his friend. So it's at the very end, that's where they find that garden again. They come back to that garden, and they judge each other innocent and not condemned to death. And so much so that they're willing to lay down their lives for one another. I don't know. It's just a really good movie. I always thought it was a sad movie growing up, but now when I watch it, I think it's awesome. Anyway,